let's bring in Kevin O'Leary, Canadian businessman and chairman of O'Leary Ventures. He comes to us from Tokyo today. More on that in a second. All right, I wanted to ask you about this because President Trump this morning will talk to the leader of China. The Wall Street Journal headline is Beijing prepares its opening bid to talk trade with Trump as White House fires 10% tariff salvo. China sees room to negotiate. Here's what President Trump said about China yesterday.
What I have discussed is we'll have some good meetings with China. We have meetings planned, and we'll see what happens. But that was just an opening salvo. If we can't make a deal with China, then the tariffs will be very, very substantial.
So Mexico and Canada were obviously motivated to try to get to a deal with President Trump yesterday, and they got a 30-day pause. Do you think President Xi is of similar mind?
No, I don't. I think China's a completely unique situation, very different than Mexico, very different than Canada. China, since 1999, when they joined the WTO, has never abided by the rules in any single year, and they certainly don't abide by IP law. And clearly, the fentanyl issue has been outstanding for years. In addition to that, from a manufacturing point of view, a company we all know well, Apple, does a massive amount of manufacturing and job creation there. I think the China deal is far more complex and requires a lot more negotiation than a weekend of just suspending tariffs for 30 days. If U.S. companies never get IP reciprocality, this is an economic war that's unique. It's an AI war. It may become a military war one day. China is just completely different, and I think they need a lot more squeezing than just this. I'm surprised there's only 10%. I thought 400% would be a good place to start. It's just, you can't compare these three situations. They're all different, but China is a big, big, big problem, and I'm not sure this is going to be resolved on a weekend deal.
I didn't know about that de minimis tax loophole that allowed you to buy a lot of things from China under a certain amount of money. That could maybe hurt China, or am I reading too much into that?
Yeah, there is a law there. The biggest problem is if you manufactured there in the last 20 years, you would find your IP, as soon as the product is proved successful, to be all over the world at a significant discount. It was just stolen from you and manufactured in some cases by the same plant. And then when online sales began, with obviously Amazon and then Alibaba appeared, you could take the product down on Alibaba with IP support from the American legal system, but there is no system in China that you can be reciprocal with. You can't litigate for your IP there. You can't use their court systems. You can't do anything, and I think that's more of the issue. I have a feeling China would like to play with the big boys, be part of the G7. In order to do that, they have to come up to speed with all the rules that the other G7 countries play with. This is probably the beginning of something much bigger with China, and maybe have a good outcome at some point, but we're in the very first innings. I wouldn't say the game's even started. It's not even the first inning yet, because this has put the highlight on something separate.
Wanted to also ask you about this. President Trump talked about the possibility of creating a sovereign wealth fund for the United States, and maybe that would be something to take over TikTok. Watch.
We're going to have a sovereign wealth fund, which we've never had. We have a lot of things that create wealth. We're going to be doing something perhaps with TikTok, and perhaps not. If we make the right deal, we'll do it. Otherwise, we won't. But I have the right to do that, and we might put that in the sovereign wealth fund.
What do you think of that idea?
Well, you know, TikTok is really Trump's deal now. If he wants to have ownership of TikTok through a sovereign wealth fund, I'm sure that's fine. The point is, the TikTok deal is a little more complex right now, and I'm pretty close to it. Yi Ming, the designer and founder of TikTok that created the algorithm, the question is, how do you buy the algorithm and still comply with the laws of Congress and the order of the Supreme Court? And that's where I think things are going to get interesting. Frank McCourt and I may have found a way to do that. We have to test it. Obviously, it's going to be oversight. But we've never had a problem raising capital for the cap table. There's lots of interest there. It's, can we get Yi Ming to the table? Will it be a joint venture with the founder and the genius that created the algorithm? Remember, there's been nothing like it. No one ever got that much market share in social media ever, because it doesn't use influencers. When you go on TikTok, it's not about any individual that you're following. you're following content that you like, that the algorithm figured out you enjoy. For me, it's watches and guitars. For someone else, it's something else. But he's going to have to be part of the deal, Yiming I'm talking about, and we're going to have to comply with the order of the courts. We'll see what happens here. But sure, if there's a sovereign wealth fund available, they want to put a few billion in, absolutely, 100%.
Just a quick word from you on why you're in Tokyo and stretching new muscles.
I've always believed if you want to stay sharp in your life, spend 30% of your day pursuing things outside of your comfort zone. Being a scripted actor is outside of my comfort zone. I have never had to read and learn this many lines before. By the way, the producer just changed them an hour ago. I got to learn these lines before 5 a.m. tomorrow morning. I'm working with Timothy Chalamet, Gwyneth Paltrow. Movie's called Marty Supreme.
Sounds great.
This is one crazy film. Crazy.
Kevin O'Leary, you're great to join us all the way from there, and good luck on memorizing those lines. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you.